You attract your reciprocal in a relationship, in a lover. You attract exactly the opposite pole, the depth of the opposite pole in your relationships, feminine and masculine. Now, everyone says that to really attract a more masculine man, you need to be more feminine. And this is true to some degree, but I really want to go deeper into this because that is only hitting the surface. And when you understand this, you'll really be able to deeply cultivate this within yourself so that you can actually attract these conscious, deep masculine men in relationships and also heal the inner union within yourself. So even though relationships are indeed a mirror and they deeply reflect the reciprocal of your energy, they're there to show you everything about your own inner union with your masculine and feminine. What relationships are actually showing you and the kind of men that you attract, what information that this is giving you is information about your own inner masculine. Attracting a reciprocal partner, it is not only about how feminine you are being as a woman. It's not only even about how embodied you are. That is the projection of the internal union. That is the external expression, how feminine you are being, appearing, living as, which is beautiful. But what it really mirrors back to you is your own inner masculine. Now, unless I'm totally listening to the wrong content here, but I never hear anyone say this or go deep on it. And this left me very confused, and it can leave you falling for the performative femininity tactics because you have been made to believe and conditioned into there's only an external feminine expression that we should focus on. But if it's not grounded with the truth and the foundation within your inner union, your inner masculine and feminine, the external expression is going to be distorted. It's guaranteed to be distorted, whether you show up as wounded feminine or hyper masculine, which is really a wounded expression of your own masculine. This is all coming from the lack of wholeness within your inner union. So, your inner masculine is not about productivity or getting another certification or even becoming financially independent. That is not what the inner masculine is about, and that is what it is touted as. I think we have a deep understanding of what masculine energy really, really is at its core, like sacred masculine, divine masculine. And in our inner union with both men and women, this is not about productivity. This is not about everything that we've been conditioned that it is, right? This is not about doing more. This is not about putting more onto your plate, stressing yourself out more. Not at all. Your inner masculine is actually what holds your inner feminine, and not through doing more or independence. It's through consciousness and awareness. So let me give you an example of this. I was chatting with the ladies inside of Divine Feminine Path, and also her. We went into this really, really deeply this week. And we were talking about how this has been so misconstrued that it's really leading women to think that just to really go even more into the hyper-masculine, like hyper-masculine, there needs to be a better word for this, but the wounded masculine conditioning that honestly both men and women are primed into here. If we think it's all about productivity and all about what you can achieve and what you can do, what you can conquer, it's this distorted reflection of masculine. And what we were talking about here is, because I'm sure you've heard me say this in other videos, and if not, if you're new here, I talk a lot about how your power, your feminine power, is you living in your preference and consistently coming back to, like, even in the moments of emotional, I mean, this is so much here, but I'll try to condense it down. But even in the moments of emotional reaction, being able to have that pause before going into it, before spiraling, and deciding, what do I actually prefer to experience myself as here? Is it me emotionally spiraling and going into it? I mean, if so in the moment, that's fine. Don't shame yourself. Or have I committed to a deeper path of staying open instead of collapsing and going into ego or going into emotional reaction? And have I committed to living as love on the divine feminine path? And if so, that pause right there, bringing that awareness to, okay, this feeling has come up to me. Obviously, this happens in a millisecond, but this feeling has come up for me. I now have the decision to move towards my preference, where I'm not going to emotionally react. I'm going to decide to, we were also talking about this in her, decide to control. I hate to use the word control here. It's not accurately descriptive. I'm going to guide my imagination, like my thoughts, my beliefs, my imagination into the direction that I actually prefer. So, for example, what we were talking about is your brain doesn't know the difference between your imagination and reality. There are studies on this, but we're not going to go into that now. And with this being true, if you have an uncontrolled imagination, your reality is going to reflect that. You're not going to have what you want. If you have a very disciplined imagination, that is your inner masculine, is the discipline, is the container that's holding that. And the feminine in this example would be the imagination, the flow, the connection, the expression, the emotions. And so when you hold your inner feminine with your healthy inner masculine, and you hold her there, and you're able to guide her back into preference, that is the divine feminine path, and that's the inner union, right? So this to me was absolutely mind-blowing. I've been doing this for quite a while now, probably almost 2 years. I've been really training myself to do this, and I honestly had no idea that that's what I was doing, was cultivating my inner masculine, which I think is beautiful. I needed to do that for sure. I was definitely more in the princess archetype or wounded feminine too. I still have my moments. But this is what sovereign feminine energy is when this inner union is complete and you're no longer seeking outside of yourself. You're no longer attracting these men who give you breadcrumbs, who just cannot meet your high standards that you probably in that moment feel are too high. You aren't attracting the men that aren't meeting you in love. And just a dose of going deep here and getting really real. If you are attracting these wounded men, this is not by coincidence. This is not by coincidence. This is a absolutely perfect internal reflection of your own inner masculine. And so instead of getting frustrated about it and wondering, where are the men you actually want? Where are the good men? Where are the conscious men? They're probably right in front of you. They're probably right in front of you. I know they are. But because that most women have this lack of inner masculine support, she can't actually fully express and embody externally her feminine to the degree, to the depth that would attract such a man that could actually show up how she deeply desires, how her feminine deeply desires to be in union with, right? And another thing here is that, or the second thing, is that hyper masculine is what we've been trained to go into. And let's say wounded masculine here. This is not actual This is not healthy masculine energy, especially for a feminine being. But we've been trained, conditioned, that we are only worthy if we achieve something, if we, have degrees, achievements, accomplishments, all that. And in this wounded masculine perception of worth, this is key to literally going to attract men who are very weak in their masculine. Because in their actual masculine, right? In their presence, in their consciousness, in their awareness, in their self-awareness, in their awareness of the feminine. So this wounded masculine state, where it's all focused on productivity, all focused on results, and the things that honestly people are touting as healthy masculine energy, I'm not sure that it is. It has a time and place, but I'm not sure that it is. This is actually a state of avoidance. You may notice, or you may feel like all of the men that you're meeting are in this avoidant state, are in this avoidance of presence, consciousness, and awareness. They're probably playing video games all the time, or workaholics if they're on that end of the avoidance spectrum. They are not able to really hold focus with you, hold your emotions. And to be honest, that's probably exactly what you're doing with yourself. For me personally, how this would show up would be in perfectionism. So my inner masculine, think about a man doing this to his woman, to his lover, okay? My inner masculine would show up in such a wounded way where if things weren't perfect, if things weren't going perfectly, or I wasn't getting what I wanted, right? Or I wasn't performing in a certain way, I would shame myself. I didn't know I was doing this, but I would really beat myself up. I thought I had to show up perfectly, and it's such a mix of wounded feminine and masculine. But I was basically beating myself up on the inside. If you're doing that, you have a distorted inner masculine. That's what's going on. And so when you cultivate a healthy inner masculine, which we are going to be doing inside of Sovereign Femme, all the details are below, and I actually decided to go ahead and just release a live version. So if you want to get in that, then check it out. But when we get into that healthy inner masculine, that is when the men show up who reflect this in ways such as if you have an emotional moment, right? Of course, the feminine does. She is the emotion. He holds you in it. He doesn't try to fix you. He doesn't try to control you. He doesn't avoid you because you're too much. I'm making the parallel here between the men you're attracting and your inner masculine, right? So you are not trying to fix yourself, control yourself, all of that. That's what I see so much in the feminine energy space is control your emotions. Be emotionally detached, aka disconnected and avoidant, which is ill, right? No. This is about cultivating the inner union that allows you to express yourself as love, as a feminine being, without needing a man there to do it. Now, I'm not saying go hyper independent, you don't need a man. No, this is just outside of the context of relationship, or while you're single, or in your moments where you're not with your man. And then whenever you get to play in this and experience yourself as love without needing someone else to fill that pull for you, or to fill that pull in the inner union, you know what high standards are. You know what real love feels like. It's you, but you know what that state of being feels like when you're whole within. You know what that feels like, so you will never settle for less than that. This is not the easiest way to raise your standards, but it's the permanent way, really. A woman who has her inner masculine in a place that is not over-operating, that is not under-operating, but really has a dance with her inner feminine that holds it so that she can be in this all the time, or as she pleases, you will have such high standards. You can't you'll realize that what you've been settling for is honestly a trauma bond. It's not the actual sacred union. So, in the context of relationships, when you become sovereign, when I say sovereign, I mean your inner masculine and your inner feminine are healthy. Your inner masculine holds the space for that inner feminine to thrive and externally express as well, to be embodied. That's what this is. That's when you become literally and figuratively magnetic to the masculine, because you're a feminine being. And when I say the masculine, I mean men, deeply conscious men who are doing their spiritual work too, and also money. This was a huge, oh gosh, you don't, the amount that this changed my business in the span of less than a week of stepping into this is absolutely insane and potent. So this is not just intimate, sacred union. This changes absolutely everything. When you show up in your divine feminine, when it's not something that you even have to, you don't have to work to become this, right? You already are. It's just all of our conditioning and wounded masculine or whatever's going on in the internal union is just what's keeping you, blocking you, holding you back from really being able to experience this in its fullness. But when you're finally able to fully open and stay open in this divine feminine state, in this sovereign feminine state, everything becomes obvious that you're going to get it. Everything that your soul has been desiring. And what's so interesting here is that a lot of your old desires will completely dissolve. A lot of your old preferences that are probably unhealthy in men will completely dissolve. You will not be attracted to the same types of men that you were before. This is how you really, you don't even try to raise your standards in this. It can't help but happen. And men can't help to meet you at this new level. It really becomes that easy. It flows like that when you are in that state. So I want to invite you into Sovereign Femme, where we are doing 12 insanely potent modules, or I like to call them initiations, into each stage of this so that you can really permanently transform. And obviously we have our moments that we're going to come in and out of this, but you have the tools and you have the embodiment to be able to come back to your preference, to be able to hold your feminine in the state that expresses itself in such an embodied, delicious, just state of love. And therefore any love that you are getting from a man, which is natural to desire, of course, but it's this extra overflow. It's not something that you're grasping for. It's not something that you need to be complete, because that can never be magnetic. That can never be, that dynamic is never going to hold you in your fully spiritual, physical, emotional, every part of you in your feminine. And I know that that's what most of you are deeply desiring. So I want to invite you into that. Like I said, I do have the live upgrade as well, which I'm so excited for. Oh my goodness. So if you're really wanting support with this, with live calls, access to a Telegram group for 12 weeks, then definitely sign up for the live version. This has changed absolutely, everything in my life and also my clients' lives. This is some of the most profound work that you can do on yourself in any aspect. And I don't say that lightly. So I invite you into this. I hope that you are able to join me if your heart feels called to. And also, you can join the recordings as well if you just want to get into that. But I'll see you in the next video. Love you so much. And definitely leave a comment below about how has your inner masculine been showing up for you that maybe you didn't even realize. All right, I'll see you in the next one.